You know, I think if there's one lesson to be learned from this flick, do not insult Willem Dafoe's cooking, because he just may go f***ing berserk if you do. Happy Halloween, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 13th and final installment of this year's special. It has been such a joyous, spooktacular time talking all things scary movies with you guys all throughout this month. But let's close this one out with a banger. A masterful banger in The Lighthouse. This is the sophomore effort for writer-director Robert Eggers, and honestly, I can sit here and argue that this is his best one. Better than The Witch, which I think is really, really great, and better than The Northman, which came out earlier this year. And we follow Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson in the 1890s as two lighthouse keepers. They're living on a remote and mysterious New England island, and they're trying to just maintain their sanity, but both are already pretty freaking deranged. And watching this movie and seeing how ambiguous it is, I've seen this movie many, many times since its release, and you know, I still don't really know what to make of it. But I feel like that's the magic of The Lighthouse. I think this is honestly Robert Eggers' magnum opus. And I'd love to see him continue to create new movies. I'll be there day one anytime that happens. But it's going to be really, really tough to top this one, in my personal opinion. Because if you just look at how good everything is and how seamless everything feels, from the direction to the editing to the production design, this movie is feeling so old-fashioned. It really makes you feel like you're in a time capsule here. Everything down from the aspect ratio, being shot on 35mm film, and being in black and white for that matter. The old-fashioned and haunting score that kind of seeps into little moments here and there. This movie feels like something that would be made in the 1930s right now. And this is a movie that isn't really concerned with what's popular right now. This is a movie that isn't really concerned with setting trends or being showy or anything like that. That's something I really respect about Robert Eggers as a filmmaker. He doesn't really shy away from just wanting to make a good movie and not really worry about what's popular. There's fart jokes in this movie, guys. And they're pulled off actually really freaking well. But when you watch this movie time after time, you still don't really figure out what's going on fully. Not necessarily what's going on. I mean, these are two guys that are going just bananas here. But this is a movie that is almost too ambiguous for a lot of people. And that's what shies a lot of people that I've talked to away from watching The Lighthouse, because they don't really understand that, you know, sometimes movies don't need to have all the answers. That's the magic of this movie. That's why I want to keep looking back at it and examining it. Put simply, The Lighthouse is one of those horror movies that shows you what filmmaking is all about. And it's also a really fascinating character study, guys. Robert Pattinson, in my opinion, gives the performance of his life in this movie. And this is before he ever became the Batman. But this is a guy who goes through the full emotional roller coaster. Because he starts off extremely reserved. He's kind of an introvert, doesn't really like talking to people, which only helps him come out of his shell because Willem Dafoe loves talking. And then we slowly see Robert Pattinson's character descend into just sheer madness. And he experiences a full range of emotions here, from just criminal villainy into just pure joy. And you just can't help but be fascinated by Robert Pattinson and what he's doing here. Same thing with Willem Dafoe, who I feel like gives one of his best performances. This is someone I've loved for a long time. But just seeing him become fully immersed into this project is something to see. And these two are a match made in heaven here. I could go on for hours and hours and hours about why The Lighthouse is just such a special film. But I feel like one of the big things that makes The Lighthouse so special, it's tough to pin down a genre. Sure, technically speaking, this is the Halloween season, so you're gonna have some scary, horrific elements in there. But it all feels super surreal. It's almost treated like a fantasy. It is weirdly euphoric seeing this stuff play out. The cinematography only helps this surrealism and this euphoria along. Not to mention the fact that it's f***ing gorgeous. The camera work and the editing in this movie is pristine. I mean, guys, a lot of people might be detracted by the ending of The Lighthouse. They might not exactly know what it means. But look, this is a movie that's gonna come around only a small handful of times in our lives. And I feel like, as it is, we don't really need all the answers. We just need to keep going back to it and we just have to come up with our own interpretation. There's not a whole lot of movies quite like The Lighthouse, my friends, and I think Robert Eggers did wonderfully with this. Two amazing leading performances only propel this up to the highest level. I mean, what else is there to say that hasn't been said about this one? I'm going to give The Lighthouse an A+. An interesting one to wrap up this scary season, because it's not necessarily just a horror movie. There's thriller elements in there, there's fantasy elements in there, and a lot of people might walk away from The Lighthouse confused if they've never seen it. But it's just so darn fascinating watching these two guys just delve deep into their emotions and their own personal sanity. Really, really intriguing movie, guys. But let me know what you thought of The Lighthouse down in the comment section below. Have you seen it before? Did this inspire you to go out and see it? Let me know what you're dressing up as for Halloween this year. I would love to discuss all these geeky topics and then some down there. Making these videos is fun, but getting to interact with you guys makes things all the more fun for me. If you're a new viewer, do consider smashing that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. That would be a tremendous favor as well. And we got 2 more months, the home stretch of 2022. A lot of big releases to talk about, like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Avatar, The Way of Water. I mean, you got The Fabelmans, you got Strange World, just to name a few. And it's going to be a lot of fun digging into all those topics with you guys and so much more. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support this channel and continuing to talk movies with me. Can't wait to have more fun with you guys down the line. So with all that being said, back talk, commence!